start to have to toss it around, and the way people look at you and the way they see you or perceive you is often so different than what you think of yourselves or what your parents think of you. So I've always tussled around this idea about identity, and wanted to look further into the Piscataway piece. And there was, that was sort of complicated. And then a number of years ago, as I started to look more and more into the genealogies and the histories of Piscataway people, as more and more census documents started to become available, we started to see in the racial category the letter M, and sometimes the letter B. And I was like, what is that? and what is that? And at the same time, we had always known that there was, especially for those of us, I think for any Native person south on the Atlantic seaboard, probably south of Maine, we have this interwoven transatlantic history with African ancestry, presence in many degrees, European back and forth, tribal identities, and then you come into this space that it's one thing or the other, and the U.S. is very peculiar in so many ways. The U.S. is peculiar because it demands a level of choose. Choose one thing, choose something else. And so this idea about so many of our peoples, especially on the Atlantic seaboard, this notion of, well, who are they, or mysterious people, or are they pureblood Indian, and how Indian are you? And for one reason or the other, this sensibility that we have to either the African presence is so submerged, or it makes people nervous, or they want to embrace it, but they don't know how. And it feels like, don't go there, or maybe that's not real, or maybe our people are just naturally darker or something. And it starts to be this uncomfortable conversation. And so I was carrying that for a long time, and as I started, but I had some really, really close friends who I had been involved with in the movement, in the Indian movement for a long time, the key person being Penny Gamble Williams. And she had come to the museum over the years, and I've known her since I was a little girl. And she's always been very, very clear about the fact that she's Wampanoag and African. And so she came to me and she said, I have this project I want to present to the museum. And it's really to say, where's our story? What about us? You can see pictures on the wall, but what about us? I wasn't really sure. I wanted to support it, and I thought, I'm just being like really, really honest, because this is where a lot of our people individually, on a community level, on the Native side of things, it's almost like the unspoken thing, it's unspoken piece. And I said to her, I was like, well, Penny, that's a great idea, and that's really great, and I really support it, and let's go ahead, and I'll give you a reference to my colleague Jim Pepper Henry, and he'll help you out, and I'll help you write help you ghostwrite the proposal and everything. And I still was I was wondering about this, because I had grown up about this whole sense about embrace everything you are, but there's this other story that I think it had been so submerged that we didn't even, I think a lot of people didn't even think it was real, about this idea about our African American connection. And when I finally had to think about it really seriously and look back in and say, why is everybody so afraid of this conversation? Like, what's the fear in this conversation? And what it really had to do with was this notion of, if we're really in this project of study of advocacy, of cultural practice, then we have to understand everything about where we come from and why things happen the way they happen. And from the Native side of it, for most of our peoples on the Atlantic seaboard and throughout the Southeast, we went through all the things that you see that happen out west. You see, invasion, epidemics, annihilation, extermination campaigns. You see missionization, you see reservation, you see removal. But a lot of that happens, and then we get to about 1710. Okay? My son was a junior in college now, and he said, Mom, this is really interesting because Piscataway people had the Bible before the people on the plains had the horse. And I thought about that, because that's 1640, So all the stuff that you see, like that we think about out in the plains in the 1800s, that's all happening in the 1600s out here. And then something else happens, which is race law. And that's what starts to interact. But at the same time, you have another thing that's going on, where our people at first encounter didn't have the racism. And there's a lot of love there too, So there is that sense of people embracing other people. And that's when we went into this project called Indivisible, and I'll go through it a little bit, but I just felt like I wanted to anchor myself in this. I'm a sociologist by training. I came to work in a museum. I've been doing stuff on identity, reconstructing histories, looking at human rights all over the hemisphere. And then it was this point of saying, this is a piece where you hear it time after time in the African American community, people talking about Native ancestry. You hear it over and over again. And it may be a grandmother, and the grandmother might stand for somebody from a really long time ago. There's that kinship and that relationship. So this is about relations. And what we found is as we were starting to launch into this project Indivisible, there was a massive amount of excitement on the African American side, and a lot of people wanting to participate. And on the Native American side, there were individuals who were really interested and really excited, and then there were other people saying, why are you trying to take our tribal identity away from us? And so it's that constant thing about, if you talk about really your full history, and the idea that we don't have isolated histories. There is no way to understand anything of what's happened on this landscape without understanding the fact that we're all part of each other. If you look here in Virginia, when you look at Maryland, everybody's close together. So that's where, I made this, I think this is about one of the best projects I've ever done. It sounds like, such a testimony, but it's really changed. I've never been able to look at my life or the life of America or the life of the global interaction ever the same way again. It's just, once you get this, and I want to also hear a lot about everybody's experiences too. And we have a small, kind of a small room, so this is a picture that's really intriguing, right? When you look at it. When I first saw this picture, when somebody first sees this picture, it almost looks like these three, the two boys and the woman in the back, you think, oh, maybe they just went and they're posing with these two Indians, And in Native America, we call that chiefing. Like you can, if you pose with somebody who's like really dressed in regalia, and you get a picture with them, and maybe somebody will give you some money for it. And so we thought, well, maybe this almost looks like that, but actually, this picture is a family. This picture is a family. It's a Comanche family, and it's Tontonekher and his wife Tatai with their wife, Whippleper, who was Frances Wright, and her children, Henry and Lorenzano. And she was, the lady in the back was the child of a man who was reportedly a Buffalo soldier who deserted and married into a Comanche family. And so we see, this picture was in the drawer of a Comanche man named Sam Davini, who spoke to our project director, who's also Comanche, Fred Nowooksy, and he said, I have a picture for you. I want to show you a picture of my family. And he pulled it out. And so, as we say, this idea, the big myth of the United States is that the races are kept